Elias Warren had always been known across Dustwater Valley as the weakest cowboy to ever saddle a horse. A thin man with a slight limp and eyes that always seemed calm no matter how loud the world around him grew, and for years the townsfolk mocked him with ridiculous nicknames. Featherbones, Half Man, Dustleaf, Never, realizing that behind his silence was a life far more extraordinary than any of them could imagine. For 10 years earlier, long before Elias walked slowly through town with lowered shoulders, he had once been a young cowboy escaping a brutal outlaw raid that destroyed his family's wagon, leaving him lost, wounded, and freezing in the high desert until 77. Apache warriors, led by the legendary Taklishka, found him on the edge of death. Instead of killing him, as the settlers wrongly believed the Apache would, they carried him into their hidden canyon home, healed his wounds with warm herbs, taught him their survival secrets, shared their traditions, their fire, their songs, and over the years Elias became more than a guest. He became a brother, walking their trails, learning their language, riding with them across the desert under the stars until Taklishka placed a beaded band on his wrist, marking him as kin to the 77 warriors. But Elias knew the fragile peace between the tribe and the settlers could shatter if his connection were misunderstood. So he promised Taklishka he would walk quietly among his own people, living humbly, keeping the bond sacred until the day he was needed. And so Elias returned to Dustwater Valley, working as a stable hand, accepting every insult, every shove, every cruel joke, because he carried dignity given by warriors, stronger than any rancher who laughed at him. Everything changed the day the Black Ridge Gang roared into town. Led by the scarred and vicious Dalton Kane, who beat the sheriff in broad daylight demanding tribute. The entire town watched in fear as Kane mocked them all. And when he struck the sheriff again, Elias stepped forward, voice trembling but brave, telling Kane to stop. The crowd gasped, Elias, the weak one, daring to speak up. But Kane dragged him by the collar, slammed him into the dirt, and kicked him again and again until dust rose around him in painful clouds. Yet as Elias lay bruised, his fingers pressed a secret pattern into the earth, an Apache call carried not by sound but by the land itself. Kane rode away laughing, unaware that the signal had already begun its silent journey across the desert toward 77 men who owed Elias their loyalty as a brother. At sunrise the next morning, Dustwater Valley trembled with fear, for Dalton Kane returned with his army of outlaws to collect payment, horses snorting and guns ready as he called out that if anyone resisted, he would burn the valley to ash. While the town hid behind trembling shutters, Elias walked forward, standing alone between Kane and the townsfolk. Kane laughed loudly, ready to mock him, again until a deep thunder rolled through the valley. The ground shook, dust spiraled, and then over the horizon, descending from the ridges like a storm summoned by the spirits themselves, appeared the 77 Apache warriors, all on horseback, all painted for battle, all riding with disciplined fury and perfect unison. At the front, towering with fierce calm, rode Taklishka. The townsfolk ran in fear, but Elias stepped forward and raised his hand in the Apache brotherhood gesture. The entire formation slowed, then stopped behind him. Forming a wall of power, honor, and loyalty, Kane's grin vanished. His men trembled. For the first time, the outlaws realized the weak cowboy they had beaten yesterday was protected by warriors whose names were spoken in whispers across the frontier. Taklishka rode beside Elias and declared in a deep, steady voice, "This man is brother to my warriors. His fight is our fight." Kane panicked, ordered his men to shoot, but they froze in fear. In fury, he drew his revolver to shoot Elias. But Taklishka hurled a spear, so fast it struck the gun from Kane's hand before he could fire. Chaos erupted. The Apache riders surged forward, capturing the Black Ridge Gang with ruthless speed yet remarkable restraint, tying and disarming them within moments without taking a single life, displaying the discipline of true warriors. Kane was thrown to his knees before Elias, his arrogance shattered. Taklishka told him strength was not measured by cruelty but by honor, something Kane never had. The outlaws were taken to federal marshals, ending their reign of terror. Dustwater Valley stood in stunned silence, realizing Elias Warren, the man they had bullied, underestimated and mocked for years, had saved them all. Not with fists, not with guns, but with loyalty, humility, courage, and a brotherhood forged in the heart of the Apache nation. Teklishka placed a hand on Elias's shoulder and said, "You walk softly, Elias, and now you stand as the strongest among them." Before leading his warriors back into the rising sun, their silhouettes fading like desert spirits returning to the land, the townsfolk surrounded Elias, apologizing, praising him, seeing him for the first time not as the weak cowboy but as the man who commanded the loyalty of 77 warriors. And as the dust settled and the sun climbed higher, Elias simply smiled, for he knew the truth of life on the frontier. Real strength is quiet, humble, and built on loyalty stronger than iron. If you loved this story and want more powerful Western tales filled with courage, loyalty, and unexpected heroes, then make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life. Stories that inspire, thrill, and ride straight into the heart. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell icon, and stay with us for the next unforgettable journey across the Wild West.